Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing tonight? Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you guys had an amazing weekend. And I thank you for joining. Please tap this live and share it with a friend so that the algorithm can bring more people. We do have a special guest, and that is username Vintage Vibes. I would like to invite her so we can get started here. Hello there.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me well?
I can. Can you hear me?
Perfect. I hear you just fine. How was your weekend?
It was quiet.
Good, good.
How about you?
Um, yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was pretty relaxing. Um,
Sorry, my
Sydney
dog.
saying hello, Vega. Hello, Sydney. How are you?
Willow.
Hello, Lord Carnage. Thank you for liking the live. Please, guys, share the live, tap the live, and yeah. So, username Vintage Vibes. She joined our live stream, I believe, sometime last week. Was it Friday or Thursday?
I'm not sure, but it was definitely last week. Yeah.
Yeah, it was last week, and she mentioned she is an independent voter, and she had some questions. We did go over some, I believe, that live with MOD, but we will have more of a discussion about, what her concerns are as an independent voter. I do want to know what are her opinions in regards to what's happening to the country right now, and also we can ask her some questions too. MOD is a co-host; she'll be joining in a little bit. So let's get started. Let me see if I can bring MOD. She should be joining shortly here.
So, Vega, are you an independent?
No, I'm not. MOD and I, we support Trump, and we just want to make that clear. I mean, everyone that follows knows that. But if you didn't know, yes, we do support Trump. But I do want to have that conversation. I don't think I've had someone that joined the panel and said they were independent. Usually, on the platform, someone is already a Republican or a Democrat. So that's why I found it very interesting, and I wanted to have that conversation with you to see what's your point of view of the economic standpoint of the country, also what's happening with immigration, what's happening internationally with all these wars. So I wanted just to get your point of view on that. But what is your main concern as we wait here for MOD to join us? What do you say is your main concern usually? By the way, have you always been an independent voter?
Yes, I'm never registered with either party, the two main parties.
So
So
how
I've
does
never.
that work for you? Like, do you vote in the presidential elections? You just
You
skip
just you
the
just can't do the primaries. That's the only
right,
thing that you don't have access to. So you don't get a primary vote.
right. But you are able to vote in the presidential, right?
Oh yeah, like you vote for everything but primaries.
Got it.
Yeah.
Without having to register,
No,
like as like selecting a
I'm a
party.
registered voter. I'm just not affiliated with a party. So like I'm
Correct.
not like if you look me up, you're not gonna see like in today's world you can look up people
Right.
and even on like like search whatever. Like they'll be affiliated with a party, right?
Yeah.
And I think typically though people like well, like most people that know me though would would say that I kind of seem more liberal, which is kind of funny.
What did they say that?
Well, I mean, it's funny because I can kind of see how that would be true 20 years ago, but I don't think that the left is the same left that someone would have, like, if someone had to, like, guess what I was registered like 20 years ago, they even maybe 10 years ago, just based on like things I was associated with, or even just Facebook posts, you know what I mean? Like just like little stuff that you notice about people if they had to guess. But I don't think and that doesn't bother me either way. Especially because I was so anti-war, like kind of like a hippie. So typically the left used to be, or the liberal minded person was very anti-war. That doesn't seem the case anymore. You know what I mean? I don't think the parties are the same, is what I'm saying.
So, but were you always an independent voter, like, or were
I
you
was always
ever
independent. I never,
always?
yeah, I wouldn't just vote. Like, I never joined any kind of clubs or like had any allegiance to any political ideology of any kind since I've been 18 and I'm 49. Um, I would read up as best as I could about the candidates and then just make my decision. You know what I mean? Like I know, like I'm not really thinking about now who to vote for because they haven't even announced who's going to be on the ballot. So as an independent, not that I mean I understand the two party. Like people always tell me when I speak up for like a libertarian or someone like that, find interest, especially on social media. I just get attacked. Wasted vote, wasted vote. You know, you just get that like that parodying of wasted vote. So I don't know. You know, what I mean, I just I tip like I have no skin in the game. Like I don't campaign. Like you know what I mean. Like I don't really follow. I think as being an independent, you're less political in your life in general. Does that make sense?
No, no, I hear you.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
did mention, though. By the way, I do want to welcome MOD. She just joined the panel. Hi, MOD.
Hello.
Can you
Hi.
Hi.
hear us well?
I can. Can you guys hear me okay?
Good.
I got it. My
Yes.
husband's got the TV up kind of loud. So I'm gonna stay muted. Okay.
Cool. No problem. Vintage, you did mention that the left from years ago is different than the left today, right?
I feel like in general politics, like some energy on the left and right is hijacked so much to a point where as an independent, I'm like very uncomfortable because I don't know, I just feel like the government has like almost like invaded like all private spaces. I don't really know what's left that hasn't been like
So let's talk about both. Let's start with the left.
involved.
So what would you say is something that you noticed back then? And can you be specific? Are you referring to like 10, 20, 30 years ago? And what's the difference between then and now that you're seeing?
I guess it might just be an older school like mentality, but like people just weren't like people seem more like local, like they focused on the local area, which I'm a fan of still. Um, so and it didn't really matter. Like I grew up on an island, maybe that's why I grew up on an island. So and I never even knew until
Oh, wow. Which
recently.
island?
It's right by Atlantic City. It was very unknown for a long time. It's called Brigantine.
Oh,
A
okay.
lot of people didn't even know of it
I've heard of
until
it,
the
but I
housing.
never really heard too much
Yeah.
about it, like in detail.
Yeah, it's right by Atlantic City, but if you go all the way down to the end of the beach, it's one way on, one way off. If you go all the way down, you can actually see LBI.
That's right. You are in Jersey, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
cool.
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, like I grew. So I will admit, living on a little island, you know, probably does affect some of my views. But like this is a funny example of like my independence of politics in general. Until recently, I know. I guess I kind of knew as I got older. Like I realized the island was more Republican. Um, so you know, I know that had to have influenced me. Yet, you know, I would challenge a lot of my friends that definitely were right leaning, and I just always kind of like brought something. But the funny thing is, a lot of people on the left, if you don't agree with them, they assume you're the opposite, right? Whereas in a lot of ways, I've never really, that's why I'm an independent. Like, my views can go both ways. Like, some of my philosophies definitely are right. Family, conserving things, less government. And then the left, you know, like, of course, I want to help people. I've been a social worker my whole life. I have even worked for the government in public service. So, I see some value in funding that, but I'm more of a, I don't understand why money has to go all the way up to Washington to come back home. So my personal philosophy, I don't know if this would be left or right. Willie, please stop. Come on. Come here. My dog's being silly. Would be to keep the more of the money local. I'd prefer to see my taxes in action. So like we have a couple areas that could use some like investment. So I would just prefer the federal government to shrink drastically and a lot of our money stay on the local level. I don't see why it has to like travel so far and wide. And I think that is why we have so much corruption. That's just my
So let's go a little bit back, because you mentioned that you used to challenge your right wing leaning friends, right?
Yeah, I guess more
So how
so.
would you do that? Like, why?
I guess more so like I guess because like I don't know if I saw it coming, but I don't know, just like it's not, I'm not an anti-capitalist. I think by nature even animals are capitalists. Every like if you can think, you can capitalize. So I guess I question the ethics of our system a lot. I'm a very sensitive person, so my sensitivity was a little much because, and I'm not judging the right for this, but the right just kind of wants like they don't, and I actually respect this more now than ever. They kind of like just they focus on their little bubbles. They take care of their people. They do a lot for charity, but it's all private. They pay their taxes. They're usually not very, they just kind of just live life and they don't worry about things they can't control. More so, I think, than the left. And so I think some of my like energy, because, and I kind of like
So are
to
you saying like your
classify.
friends were sort of like selfish? Is that what you mean? That they were just
I don't think they
voting
were
towards
though.
their own interests personally, or?
I don't think that's it because again, like I lived in an area and I mean, it's like how can you be selfish if you're paying taxes? I mean, they, and anything beyond that, we did a lot of charity. Like there was no homeless on our island. Like we took care of our island.
But I
So, I
guess
mean,
what I'm trying to get to is, because you said that you sort of challenged them about being Republicans or supporting the right. So why? What were you like?
I didn't say that. It wasn't ever like I said, like, you're on the right. I want to challenge you. But when I would talk
Right.
about like not being like for the war, there's a good example. Like when I would say, I just don't support war. I don't understand of all the things we could like think of to resolve conflict.
Is
Why is
this
it
like
always,
referring to like towards the Iraq War when George Bush was president?
it's really all war. I'm very war
Oh, wars.
adverse.
Okay.
It's a little idealistic, which is probably why some would say, "Oh, she's probably a left leaning." You know what I mean? Like, it's a little out of touch. I can admit that because
Okay.
war is war. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
So going back a little bit again to when you said that both parties are different, way different than before. Do you have any like examples about maybe what the left looked like before to what it looks now, that you're like, whoa, this is like a totally different Democratic Party?
Well, I'm blown away by the level of how much they want to control others. It's just mind blowing to me.
Can you be more specific?
Just like really like think like lack of boundaries. Like it just seems like and like also like speaking like it just seems like this identity politics like hijacked groups, and I know a lot of people in these quote unquote groups, and they don't even want this energy. So I think it's disingenuous because it would be like me saying all women feel this way when I know they don't. And I think with identity politics, it's dangerous. And I'm not going to go off on that unless you want to talk about that. But I mean, to shield like other agendas behind groups of people, I think is really, really low and disingenuous. I don't know if you understand.
So when you say right now the Democrats are clearly involved in a lot of identity politics, so you're saying that before it wasn't that heavy?
Well, I feel like before, especially while I was in college, like here's a good example. I was on like a lot of environmental clubs. I was like a greenie, and like there was no politics involved. It was apolitical,
Yeah.
and like any little activism, like it seemed more actually active and action oriented.
Hmm.
And I, like instead of a lot of talk and like trying to worrying about what everyone else is doing, like if you have a mission in politics, just get it done. And I feel like the left used to be a little bit more focused and like actually like they actually probably accomplished a lot more in real time because they were action focused, not activism, quote unquote. Yeah, do you understand what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then and like this lack of focus, it's just like
By the
I
way,
think
do
it
you mind
feels
sharing what's your background,
sure. Like in what regard? Like
just for context? Like,
um
are you European? Are you Hispanic? Are you?
I'm European, but I'm like my great grandmother, she still spoke, and so did my grandmother, spoke fluent German, but we're from all different countries, but with my mom and
But
dad.
mainly Europe.
Yeah, like all different countries, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So, okay. So then you're not for wars, but you're also against identity politics. Are you more sort of like concerned about the environment? Is that like your main thing?
Well, I mean, I just again like I've after what's gone on the past well, no gosh, 4 years, I've lost some time with this pandemic. Um, I just keep going more back towards local. So sure, like I love the environment here. So like my common sense logic would say, then keep your environment clean locally. Like I think responsibility is lacking. I feel like the right is a bit indifferent, even though like they sometimes say they don't want big government, but I don't. And some of them are very responsible. Again, like seem more focused than the left. However, they do like seem to like sometimes like how do I put this? Like I think both sides are very like selective with caring about rights. I think both sides are very selective about caring about spending. So it's just like at this point, I feel like both sides, and this isn't Trump's a little bit of a different energy. I'm talking about like because there's going to be different. I mean, there's going to be different types of beliefs. Even I don't like to generalize and stereotype people, so I'm not saying all people that fall on the right or all people that fall on the left, fall into this. But in general, I just feel like the right, like I mean, they want less government, but I don't see them like caring about their environment
So you're
to
saying that you're not seeing them like search for that small government? Is that what you're saying?
Can
uh,
I ask
I,
a
I think I'm
question?
having trouble like expressing it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I
Go ahead,
feel
Emily.
like
You can jump in if you want to.
maybe you can
Yeah.
Go
help me.
ahead.
I don't know if I'm
So
having trouble with my.
I got you. That's pretty clear because I think more or less what we're looking for is you're trying to make sense of either side and the way that either side operates. Much, yeah, much.
Just mute the mic, Vintage, so we don't hear
Yeah,
the
you hear
echo.
the echo.
Thank you. Oh, she dropped.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
She might have got a phone call.
could have been. Let's see if we can bring her back. Um, Jamarian wants to join. Jamarian, I'm not opening the panel for discussions yet. MOD is a co-host and Vintage is a special guest. I'll open the
There you go.
panel for discussion in a little bit, in about 40 minutes or so. Go ahead, MOD.
Yeah, so it seems like you're trying to make more sense of what others and how others think. And then, therefore, since you seem to be, I would say a bit more descriptive would be undecided, right? Which is perfectly fine. There's lots of Americans that feel the same way that you do. But it's kind of more or less like, where do I fit in? Where do I belong at? Rather than, what are my ideals and values and um who is best representative of that, right? So if you go to vote, independent, right? And you go to the polls and you look and you go, you know what? I'm really not for either party. However, the platform of this person that I'm voting for, I don't quite get everything that I may be looking for out of that party. You get what I'm saying? So, like, if you voted for, like, who's the last presidential candidate you voted for, if you don't mind?
Okay. I voted Libertarian the last election.
Okay.
Be, and I'll tell you why. Trump would have been on my radar, but New Jersey is not. I knew he wasn't going to win New Jersey,
Okay.
so I wanted to give the Libertarian Party love because they
Okay.
need, like, the more votes they get, the more chance they'll get to have a voice in
Yeah.
our system.
Yeah. I'll stop you there because, in all actuality, the more votes you get for that party, unless they're able to, you know, market the same way as the other party, or do something significant to the point where they can kind of do something that both sides can agree on, and you've got more people from the other side that are going to vote for them. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen, right? So, for instance, if you have a libertarian candidate and you've only got libertarians voting for them, well, libertarians are a very, very small percentage um, of the voting parties, right? And the majority of Americans are either Democrat or Republican, or they may be independent, but they can vote either Democrat or Republican for the major parties. The only way that you're going to bolster any of those third parties is if you get people from other parties to join the Libertarian Party. It's just not going to happen. So much, that's why people kind of say you're throwing your vote away, because you're literally voting for a party that's really not ever going to go anywhere, right? And I think maybe from your perspective, it's just like, well, why do these two parties have to be the dominant ones when I see so much going on between the two of them that I don't agree with both of them? Why can't we just have a third candidate? Well, the thing about it is because, unfortunately, the libertarians don't speak, maybe just don't speak the same language, maybe, that the other that the to you know to basically where, um how do I want to put this? So let me back up for a second. So if you have your Democrats and your Republicans, right? And you have Democrats that seem to be more for social issues. You got Republicans that are more for um finance. We look more at, like, money issues, the economy, like more practical things. Not that social issues are not practical, but we tend to be a bit more logical when it comes to spending and things like that, right? Where'd she go? I'm just talking.
I'm bringing her back. She said that she dropped because of a phone call,
I'm
but
like,
she's
write it
listening.
down. I was looking.
She's back. She's back.
Sorry, my
Okay,
phone,
Yeah.
my phone kept ringing. I
no,
love
you're
what you're
good.
saying. I hear what you're saying. I hear
Yeah,
what you're saying. Totally.
yeah, but I think I think, just to round this out, because I don't want to monologue. I think you're more too focused on what the other side, like the Republicans and the Democrats. Well, how do I think? How do I fit in with either of them, right? And I would just implore you to explore more of the candidate themselves, their track record, and whether or not most of the things that they have agree with you or don't agree with you. And it sounds like you need to do a little bit more research in the way the government maybe works and how things actually work, rather than just kind of focusing on how other people view it. You get what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can get into that. I was just, like, trying to, I'm sorry if I wasn't answering the questions the way they were being asked. I was just trying to explain, like why I thought the party shifted, and, I was just trying to answer questions. It wasn't really coming naturally from, like, I don't know if that's necessarily what I would discuss. Like, I have learned more about how the government works. I honestly, I'll be 100% transparent. I was very apolitical, except for, like, again, like, more local issues, state issues. But things keep growing and expanding, that it's hard not to, like, for me, at least, someone that was, like, less interested in this space, it's almost like I have to learn, because it's hard to find a place where it's not Like, and it hasn't like invaded or infiltrated, which is alarming to me as an independent. I usually do read about the candidates. I don't vote like quote unquote independent. I can vote for whoever I want as an independent. And it's, like, and there are a lot of Greens, Libertarians, which are the two probably most popular third parties on the lower levels. So I mean, like I have like tried to take more of an interest, read like as you said about the individual candidates, and make my best decision. It's a lot. It's a lot though. It's a lot because the campaigns are so like slimy. I mean, the whole system to me needs a pretty nice U-Haul, but that's just my humble opinion. Um, and I just think the right can be like, I just think I don't resonate with either side so much so that I would fully join their energy and be like, I am this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like because I can kind of like, I think both sides like kind of selectively regulate at this point
Yeah, well,
against us,
yeah,
and for big interests and for themselves. Not everybody, again, I don't like to stereotype, generalize all people in government that have high, power positions do this. There's some warriors. I like Rand Paul a lot. I really like him. I think he is one of the few warriors. I like Thomas Massey. So I mean, I kind of take note who seems more genuine, and more focused than just wanting to point fingers and just kind of do the mudslinging thing. Because like I don't like that stuff. I like people that answer
So
questions and
MOD,
get
I hear
stuff
this a
done.
lot actually from people that are in between about big government and how they feel that Trump is not pushing for that. But we had some discussions about this. Do you have any samples that I can pull up here in regards to this where he is trying to make the government smaller? I know you mentioned a couple last time we had the discussion.
so I would say Trump always ran on, I feel like his ideology was sort of more or less kind of centrist. He was kind of both ways on like abortion and things like that on social issues. I think he had a good mix or understanding of both sides. As far as necessarily making the government smaller, I don't necessarily know if that is one of his tenets. I think it was more or less sort of improving what we already have. And the power and the overreach of all the branches has been, I mean, they've all three branches have done in some way, shape, or form done that. I looked up the other day, the first two presidents on the list of the most executive orders. First of all, the first one was FDR. He was a Democrat, and I think he had 4 terms. He signed over 3,000 and 3,000 executive orders. Right, Calvin Coolidge I think came in with like a 1,500 or something like that. Anytime any which way the branches actually, I feel like, do like overextend their authority is usually when their statutory or executive order or even the Supreme Court overstepping their bounds and doing things that benefit them more than anything. So I would say throughout Donald Trump's presidency, I think that he more or less wanted to make sure that the office of the president, kept in check. And the sort of executive orders that he signed, so like for instance, and I thought this was very, very smart. When he did the First Step Act, essentially what it did is it took back the power of the federal government in terms of over policing from Congress when it came to and the president to establish laws that kind of go beyond the sovereignty of the states when it came to jail sentencing for federal crimes, right? And then what that did is, and in turn, is that when these states that didn't have any sort of plausible uh, way of being able to deal with them, especially Democrat cities and Democrat areas, they instituted these three strikes rules, which put a lot of their own people behind jail for a very, very long time. And I think what President Trump would did with the First Step Act is that reducing those jail sentences for you know a lot of people got a lot of that base out of jail, and those people eventually ended up voting for him. But in turn, I feel like that it balanced the justice system and restored it back to where it should be, that the federal government shouldn't be sort of overextending their reach and influencing other cities and states to have these laws that grossly impact their people.
So what
354
you're
is just
saying is that Trump hasn't
ridiculous.
necessarily pushed in a huge way for small government, but more for an improvement and also to not
For
do
sure.
extensive overreach.
Yeah.
So not necessarily making it smaller, but just don't do the overreach either.
Balancing it out. Yeah, because we have to have one thing Joe Biden did say that I agree with is that we have to have a consensus. Like the way to restore the republic is to making sure that we go back to a consensus, to where both sides agree on some things and there's some caveats, but essentially we're doing this for a stronger union. And now what it's turned into is that it is a mudsling. It's a back and forth. It's who's better for the economy and who's not. And my team is better than your team type stuff. And it's
But
just
what about
growing
Trump
more.
and the three letter agencies, though?
Yeah, the same. So I would say, as far as that's concerned, with doing defunding some of these federal agencies, like we talked about it, we know that the FBI is absolutely corrupt. We know for a fact they are.
And again, this is all intended for entertainment purposes only, pure speculation. But you know what I mean. Go ahead, Emily.
Right. And then but making sure that he's putting processes in place. When he fired James Comey, he was sending a message to the FBI that you're not going to act corruptly. I'm going to, as the president of the United States, I'm going to make sure that you do your job and you're treating the American citizens as in a way, and serving the public in a fair and balanced way. You can't just be making up court cases and making up stuff and have all this corruption and not deal with it. So he sent a big message, and of course, big government doesn't like that. They want to be able to stay in power. And so he did
So Emily, so you're saying that so Trump tried a little bit, but not too much, not deeply into cutting government the way at least maybe
for
a lot
sure.
of us want him to.
Right.
But on the other side, the Democrats have, according to what you said, weaponized the whole thing, which made it a lot worse.
For sure.
Yeah.
Nobody should be weaponizing the FBI.
Right. So then, okay. So then, talk to me about wars, Emily, because he mentioned the wars as well, and she said both sides were guilty of it. Correct, Vintage?
What I said was, like, you were just asking me about my background.
Yeah.
What I said is, I feel like the used to be more notorious for not supporting war as much, but in today's world, I think it seems like that's pretty much lost. You know what I mean? Like, it does seem like both sides, that's like more of a partisan or bipartisan energy than
Is
not.
pushing for war.
Like, I think that they come together more on that than a lot of other issues. Yes.
Okay. So okay. So what do you think about that, Emily?
Well, I think if it depends on who you ask. You could say, some will say that the Vietnam War was very necessary, and a lot of people that you will talk to saying that it was probably one of the worst decisions we ever made, was to go into war, and that nobody really supported that. I think the United States has had its fair share, whether they were Democrat or Republican, with benefiting from war. I mean, war does make money, and I agree, both sides have benefited from that. But in other times, I think war was very necessary, especially World War II. While we didn't really pump first, and some may say, oh, we were heavily involved because of the whole weapons development programs that we were sort of funding and being involved in when it came to the H bomb. And I would venture to say that, like, for instance, when Trump wanted to pull out of NATO, right? And he threatened to pull out of NATO if the other countries weren't paying their fair share, right? And so what he did is he made sure that they had their agreed upon 2.5% increase, and then they're like, basically, if we're going to fund NATO, and then you've got other countries that are seemingly wanting to start things to involve NATO, knowing that the United States would be even if we did make money off of it, there was no way that we were going to be pulled into a NATO conflict. That's why he did everything. I mean, if you notice, even with Putin, he was very, very tough on Putin. They like to say that he wasn't, but no, I mean, every time Putin sneezed, there was a sanction on him. And when Joe Biden became president, he lifted all the sanctions. He lifted sanctions off the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. He lifted sanctions off of Russia, like left and right. He was very amenable towards Russia. He even told him, like, hey, we got a bunch of targets that you should not mess with. There were like some of our most sensitive cyber intelligence stations, or whatever sites. And like I said, I mean, his people like to say that Trump was very amenable towards Putin, and I don't think that was it at all. So I would say on the world stage, when it came to war, Trump kept us out of war. He made sure that he took that stance that he would use the military, and they probably thought Trump was crazy enough to do it. Same thing with NATO. They weren't going to drag us into any sort of conflicts. And he, made sure that foreign policy, with his foreign policy experience, to keep them on the up and up. And he knows what they wanted. They're businessmen. At the end of the day, Trump is a businessman. He knows exactly what they wanted. So he came to the table making a deal, and those deals that he made kept us out of war.
So Emily, I actually Googled what you said about the sanctions, and this is per Congress.gov, and you can Google it, guys. So it says here, the Biden administration has waived sanctions on a company building a controversial gas pipeline between Russia and Germany. The U.S. also lifted sanctions on a Russian president, Vladimir Putin ally, who leads the firm behind the Nord Stream 2 project. And then this was October 28, 2021, the article. And then I have another one here per the spglobal.com. The U.S. Treasury Department will lift sanctions imposed on Burbank of Russia's former Kazakh unit, subsidiary bank Burbank of Russia JSC, effective March 6, following ownership charges at the Kazakh lender, according to the Wall Street Journal reported. So I would just double check, MOD, what you said about the sanctions there.
Yeah, and then you can see how many sanctions Trump actually put on Russia. He put sanctions on them. I mean, it almost seemed like day after day, like, and especially in August 2020, I believe, 2019 or 2020. I mean, he was putting sanctions everywhere. There was a spy or Russian KGB agent or something or other. Well, he gets.
But going back to the wars, MOD. So, do you believe that both the Dems and the Republicans within the last 10, 15 years, and I guess we can include the Iraq War there too, have been very bipartisan when it comes to moving forward in these wars?
Well, as far as bipartisan, I think it depends on the president and what it's about, because Congress has the only ability to, or has the only ability to basically declare war. So the people, which is Congress, have to be able to declare war, right? Now the president, in his oath of office, is the commander in chief of the military. So he can do things like drone strikes, right? He can authorize a drone strike, which normally would be an act of aggression against a foreign enemy, and that could constitute as war. We've seen this happen plenty of times, where someone has shot down a pilot, or even what just happened recently with the Navy. I think it was in the Red Sea or something like that. We've seen acts of aggression against our military that didn't turn over into war. But what we did see things like under Obama is him. I mean, he was the drone strike king. I mean, he basically fought wars with drone strikes, and these were completely unauthorized by Congress, and Congress never batted an eye at that. Now, imagine if Donald Trump, when he sat there on television and told when they were asking him about the, I think it was Taliban leader, that he was going to send a picture. He told him, he said, yeah, send him a picture of his house and the coordinates to his home, and told him he'd drop a bomb on him. Now, if If Trump would have done something like that, it would have been an issue. Just like they tried to blame the death of Jamal Khashoggi on him. I mean,
I agree.
yeah. I
The way
mean, it's
they, I
just
mean,
it
the
is what it
media is
is.
psycho.
Well, and then
The
that's when we
media,
get into the media conversation.
yeah.
Vintage, what's your take about the media, by the way? Do you trust them? What's your take about that?
I mean, like that's like the truth of the matter is, I went off of social media from like 2018 to the start of the pandemic. So that was quite a bit of time, and it was like night and day. Like something shifted, this polarization, and I think it's all media driven. I think that they lie about Trump. I have a lot. I've respected like, and I go on the government direct source pages, or I go to direct source, and I've seen a lot of things that I respect Trump for. Especially, I personally feel that he respected the Constitution more than Obama, Biden. I don't know about Bush or Clinton, but I don't know why people call him an authoritarian or a dictator when he seems to be the most mindful of the Constitution. And I think the media just lies. I mean, I've like direct sourced so many things that they've lied about. It's obscene, and it does seem to be like at Trump. And that's not to say that I agree with everything he's ever done or said. I mean, I probably wouldn't say that about any human being anyway. Um, but that made me very like, that's when I kind of like got my head out of the sand. And when I spoke up about it, people put me in a box of like a trumpet. I was called names, like just asking questions and like kind of being like, why is everyone bullying him so much? Like, this is crazy. And then it was like you were demonized. It was really weird. It was almost like an alternate universe. So I think the media is the most toxic aspect of all of this division, no doubt.
Got it. So you don't necessarily support, but you are able to see what the media is doing with the information and with the things that they are promoting.
You mean support what? Support.
I mean, that you don't support Trump. I'm saying, but you recognize.
I never said I didn't support him. I honestly like. I still want to do. I'll be honest. I still want to do a lot more reading about the World Economic Forum. I mean, at this point, Trump is still very muddy to me. I can say that I appreciate a lot of the things he did. There was a couple of things that stood out that I was like, that's genius. And it was very business minded. Like the opportunity zones. There's a great example. I thought that was genius. I really think that's a great way to go. If the government's going to be involved, it's a good way to be involved. Investing in, areas that need it most. Things like that. There's a lot of other stuff like that he did, like with the national parks. Like there's a lot of things that I appreciate that he did. There's a lot of things that I'm so ignorant to either way that I don't want to like say that I support or don't support, because I'd really want to do more reading, and it's so much to catch up on because I literally was like completely out in the dark for 2 years during his presidency.
Got it. No, but what I mean is that as of right now, he still doesn't have your vote. Doesn't mean that he might not get it, but as of right now, he doesn't have your vote. That's what I mean.
I want to read more on RFK. I also, my concern more about Trump isn't so much Trump, it's the reaction and the energy that's going to like worsen, and because the media drives so much. I just don't know like what that reality would be like for any of us, and I hate to say that because I don't want to see. I'd like to see this cool down, not heat up. So my one concern is, regardless if he has the best policies of any president we've ever known, the reality that it could manifest could outshine that, and it could be really bad. But and I'll leave it at this. There's a very big part of me that knows we're in an industrial revolution, and I've kind of like resolved Trump at this point to this. I think that no matter who's in the seat, the industrial shifts are going to happen. But I do recognize Trump seems to care more about softening that transition for the American people. That's something I can say that after all I've read, on all the stuff. I mean, there's a lot looming, a lot of change. I think that he actually wanted to, and maybe he thinks he can do more than he actually can. I don't really know how much power he has when it comes down to a major industrial revolution, but I give him props for trying to create policy that would soften that transition, like, for the American people. Do you know what I'm saying?
But part of your concern is that if he gets back into office, the reaction from the media and from the left and the division would be so huge. Is that what you said?
That's one of my concerns.
That even though he might have good policies, we're just going to be dealing with the drama of the arguments on television and the back and forth. And you're saying that you're not sure if you're for that.
Yeah, the mass amounts of people will just follow those narratives. We know this. We've seen it. We're living it. So, it's like, I don't really know how I feel at this point about it, because I live near Atlantic City. So he was here for a while. Okay. So I knew Trump, Trump was a big deal in Atlantic City for a long time. And, a lot of people appreciated him. He created a lot of jobs. And then there was a lot of people that stopped liking him for X, Y, and Z reasons. I think that, sometimes he can be ruthless. However, that energy, is my first impression of him. I'm not going to, I'm kind of neutral with it, because I've heard different people say different things about him, as far as his business practice in the city that I lived literally next to, and affected everybody that I lived around. When he left, then he was demonized because it created a surplus of job loss when he went bankrupt. But before that, people loved him. So it's kind of an interesting thing that he was only demonized when he pulled out of the city. And then it was like he's all bad. So it's kind of like what we're seeing now a little bit. Again, I'm sure there's reasons people had to dislike the man, especially that did business with him. But some of it, I know firsthand was not true. So just like today, I know some things said about him are not true. It's hard to gauge. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah, I hear you. Freedom in the comment section, by the way, he's one of my subscribers. Hello, Freedom. He mentioned this in the comment section. He said he called out WEF and centralized banking, the World Economic Forum he's referring to, for those that don't know. And he also said, Freedom said in the comment section, I wish it would, in regards to the back and forth and the division. I wish it would cool down, but sadly, it's all a lot of toxicity causing the heat to rise. MOD, what do you say about that? What do you think? What's your take on this?
So as far as what the guy was saying about the WEF and all those other, was that it?
Yeah. So she's saying that that even if Trump has some good policies and whatnot, him going back into the White House, it would just create so much chaos when it comes to the division part of the country. Both sides would go, wild, and the media, it's just going to be a cluster. She also did mention about the World Economic Forum. So Freedom said that he did call them out, and he also said that he wishes that things will cool down, but the toxicity will continue to rise.
So I think for one, I think no matter who we have as president at this moment, unless it's neither of them and it's someone else, you could possibly cool things for a bit of time, but I think more or less, unless you get someone in there that neither side likes, which is never going to happen, because it's the only way for everyone to come together is if neither side likes the same person. So I don't think that necessarily, like, if Trump wins, I think that there's going to be there's still going to be some unrest. I think that if Biden wins, I think that there's going to still be some unrest. But ultimately, what I do believe is that the only way that we are going to sort of get to back to a footing where we're not kind of arguing, because I remember even when Trump was president, I mean, people weren't as vocal about hating him that much. It was more the media. And until we do something, honestly, until we have proper reporting in the media, and it's not, they're not reporting and inflaming people to be angry, because a lot of these headlines, of course, are attention grabbing, but they're also designed to sort of inflame you or upset you. And that's what a lot of people are arguing about, is headlines, because when you actually deep dive into a lot of these things, you wouldn't have really any other choice but to start to want to hold your entire government accountable for what they're doing, including both sides. So to personally, I think that Americans need to we should probably start to focus on the truth, and not much less, hating one another or blaming the Republicans or the Democrats for everything. Or share giving one side more blame than the other. Start deep diving into all of it, but also at the same time, there's clear indications that there is one side that are pushing the tenets of fascism, and it's definitely not the right. It's definitely not the right.
I
Got it.
I agree
Uh,
100% on that. I agree, because I did some deep diving into the history of fascism and all the debates on what that word means, and I agree 100%. And in a dream state, like if I could wish something, I would love RFK to be the vice president on the ballot with Trump, instead of just running independently. I mean, it would be a Democrat and a Republican running together. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know if that's even allowed, but it would be kind of cool.
He's an independent, and yeah, we've had that in history. The last time we actually had that was during the Lincoln's election, during the Civil War. And so Andrew Johnson was the vice president. He was a Democrat. But I mean, to be honest with you, Trump only ran on the Republican ticket because he used to be a Democrat. And he ran on the Republican ticket to go against the Republicans, because the Republicans didn't really have a candidate. We really didn't. Who is it? Like Mitt Romney or whatever, that guy again. Like, who
Oh,
else do we
I thought
have?
he
Yeah,
was
I
like
mean, and then look,
he's
we
been
had like Ted
affiliated as an
Cruz and Marco
independent.
Rubio. Yeah,
Yeah, and a
we would have
Democrat.
lost the
Trump was a
election had it not
Democrat
been for
for
Trump.
a long time. Exactly.
Yeah,
so,
we would have
MOD,
definitely lost.
I did want to ask you this. She mentioned that she wants to look into RFK.
Hmm.
Can you please explain to me why would some voters be even interested in that when it's clear to everyone that this person has no chance in winning the presidency at all? I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean, you can even look at the numbers, right? It's just
I said I wanted to
nowhere near
briefly.
close. So why would you even give that person a vote where you know it's going to be pretty much a waste? So, and you see these people, sometimes they get like a couple of percentage and this and that, and they're still like trying to run. Like, what's the point of all of that?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Just for your
So
opinion and your take on it.
yeah, so I think kind of like where vintage is at, where there's a lot of independence, and like I said, no offense, but being independent, usually independent voters tend to either go either way. But they also tend to not be very liberal either. They usually are not liberal unless you're one of those democratic socialists. But they tend to lean more right, right? And so even some, you have some independents in Congress as well. So they have the capability of doing things to get people to vote for them, right? But the ones that usually are independent tend to actually lean a little bit more right on some issues. So I think for the undecided, for you don't necessarily have to have a Democrat or Republican behind your name in order to to affect some sort of change. But what I do think is that the in order to gain the independent vote, because a lot of independents did vote for Joe Biden, but that's because they were anti-Trump. I would say to really sort of maybe bolster that. I've heard this before, that it might not be a bad idea to see a Donald Trump and RFK ticket. But as far as like RFK is concerned, the only reason why he's not a Democrat is because he knew he couldn't run against Joe Biden. The DNC wouldn't let him. They won't let, really right now. There's really no other candidates for the DNC. They're not supporting any of these other ones, so they kind of have to do something. And if at least if RFK could bolster the base for the independents when he does eventually support Trump, and he probably will, he would be integral in carrying that independent vote, because I do think a lot of independents are pro Robert Kennedy. So he might be able to throw Trump the votes that way, and if he's successful at it, there's a very very good chance he could be a VP pick.
I mean,
Interesting.
Trump, I mean,
Go ahead, Vintage. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You go ahead. I did not mean to talk over you. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that would, yeah, like I really would prefer to see someone other than Pence on the VP ticket. If it boils back down to Trump and Biden,
Oh, no, Pence is gone. He's done.
what's that?
Pence is history.
Yeah, because if Trump and Biden are definitely going to be like the go-to picks again, the VP really matters to me, because I mean they're both getting older. Trump's clearly more sharp, but I mean he's still going to be what, like, isn't he going to be like 90 once his 4-year terms would be up or something? Like he's close to 90, right?
No, he's Trump's 77. He'll
Oh,
be
he is?
80.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I know some pretty sharp 80-year-olds. My grandma was in her 80s before she passed away. She's pretty sharp.
I mean, Trump seems much sharper, but the VP still is very important to me. And
Yeah.
I definitely would like, I'm not feeling Biden, and like, I'm not vote.
I'm glad you brought that up, Vintage, because I wanted to ask you.
Yeah,
You did mention
I'm not
you.
for Biden or Harris, no matter what. No matter what.
Yeah, so you did mention Trump. What is your take on Biden?
I will not vote for him.
Why?
Well, I mean, like, no. I mean, I don't even know if I can like express why not. It's just a strong no. It's just a
A
strong,
strong no. Interesting.
like that word speaks for itself. Strong no.
Wow. What do you think, MOD? Independent voter, and she's saying no for Biden.
That's
A strong no for
Yeah,
Biden. Let me correct that. What's your take on that?
that's what I'm saying. Like, the independents don't seem to be amenable towards anybody that's like the Democrat side. Like I said, they tend to lean more right. They're just not. They're not for the party system, so they're definitely not going to be Democrat, but they're definitely not going to be Republican, and so that's why they call themselves independent, because they can vote either way, right? They're not gonna secure a D or an R behind their name. Now, the reason why a lot of independent voters are right leaning is because they seem to be a bit more practical when it comes to the economy, and not really focusing so much on social issues. But the thing about the independents is that they do care a very much great deal about social issues, especially when it comes to what's sort of the things that affect them in their daily life. So I have a lot of respect for independence. Like I said, I'm a Republican, so I'm a party loyalist, but I also do respect people that don't necessarily have that behind their name. Um, I think, I mean, I'm not surprised. And a lot of independent voters that I talk to have voted for Trump. But there's a lot
But
that actually
correct me if I'm wrong, Vintage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so a strong no for Biden. You do see that Trump has some good policies, but you're still unsure because maybe, as you said, if he gets elected, it's going to be like a nightmare to deal with the back and forth and the media and the left and the right and this and that, and you maybe don't even want to deal with that. when you're like watching the news or whatever. Is that right?
Well, I don't watch the news, so like I don't even have TV. I'm a
Or
little
just
bit.
maybe just all around you, like hearing about it,
It's
or
just and like I mean I even on social media though, like I try to tell people like you don't even know if the person like you see all the stuff even when we see on social media all these comments they're not you don't even know if it's a real person. There's a lot behind going on social media, but also I just really want to know who his VP is, and I also want to see if there is any other if anyone else just comes to right now because it's so early. I don't feel like it's worth. I'm not gonna like say yay or
It's
nay.
we're
I want to see if anyone else comes to like comes.
vintage. We're like 8 months. What? Eight
Well,
months
I mean,
away.
yeah, but like they don't even have like in
We're
June.
very very close.
Like
It's
if you look at
trust me, Vintage, you're gonna blink
we're
twice and it's
closer
gonna be
than you
like
think.
October.
if you look
Yeah,
at the
we're much
states though, I
closer
just
than you
looked this
think.
up though. There's
You
some of
know,
the
time is
states.
going so quickly.
I
No,
know.
but I look, I appreciate your point of
Yeah.
view, and that's why I'm
Some of
asking because I want to
yeah.
know, you're like, what goes behind your train of thought when it comes to making this decision, which is a very important decision, no doubt
Well,
about it.
well, and I live in New Jersey. Though you have to understand, like I don't know if it could happen. It could go red. I don't know. People are pretty upset right now for lots of reasons with what's been going on in Jersey. So, but what? No, what I'm
What's been
saying
going
is,
on in Jersey? Just curious.
I mean, there's just like a lot
I'm
of
from there, by the way,
rumors.
but I haven't lived there
Yeah,
in like a couple of
like
years now.
I mean, like the governor, like with the breweries, they just gave like 30,000 like raise to a lot of people. The way they handled the
Oh,
turns.
you dropped for a second there.
Oh,
Can you
sorry.
repeat, please?
Okay, like there's just been a lot with the way the pandemic was managed. Um, I mean, our governor was found guilty for the deaths of a lot of people in the vet home. Like, there's just a lot, but there's a lot of overreach, a lot, and it's the costs are rising. The windmill issue where I live by the coast is a big one. A lot of the Democrats that I know are against the windmills. There's just a lot of issues
Wait
that
a
are
minute.
like,
Hold on.
what's that?
You said
Go
the
ahead.
Democrats are against the windmills?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them because they're very in tune because they live here and they see like all the reasons that they should be against it. You know what I mean? Like,
What the environmental impacts, like birds flying into them?
well, we
Very
had
rarely.
so many
Oh my
whales
god.
wash up. It's not. I can't even
They're
tell you.
they're saying that the windmills are calling whales to wash up.
There's just been a lot of concern with this like it has to do with like the acoustics and how it could put them off court. Like there's a lot to read about it. And it's just I guess what it boils down to is they're not allowed to discuss it. Like I think that's what made a lot of the lefties
I'm
like
sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
yeah. What are you for windmills?
No, I'm not against them at all. I'm just
They're
trying to.
not they're in
It's
the ocean. I'm sorry, they're
yeah,
the
like
ocean ones.
yeah.
They're the
Oh,
ones
I
in the
thought you
ocean.
mean like the ones on land.
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
how
no.
is this affecting?
They're trying to put they're trying to put a line of these windmills all through our coastline. So when you look out there, you're not gonna see the sunset and the sunrise anymore. You're just gonna see these giant white machines, and there's a lot to read on that, and there's lots of reasons. Even people that are generally more green are like not happy, and what's really
So why are they not happy if that's what they wanted?
Yeah, I mean,
no,
this is
but see that I don't
exactly
generalize. Again, I don't. You'd be
Well,
surprised.
yeah, those.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say some are not happy. So why some are not happy about it?
Because well, I think what really like upset them was they had a lot of questions because if you start to read on it, there are a lot of concerns, and it was just this one company. It also had to do with that. It was this like company from Switzerland. Like there were so many layers of why people wanted to have the conversation, and the governor just shut everyone down like an authoritarian. So I think the left like that kind of like was they weren't having that.
so.
Interesting. Go ahead, MOD.
Yeah, I looked this up and it's on the NOAA and it talks about offshore wind development potential impacts. And they kind of list a myriad of issues from I mean, it's clean energy, which is interesting because Democrats are usually for green energy.
Yeah, that's what they're all about,
Yeah,
right? This is what
they're
they
like,
always.
I'm
That's what they
like,
talk
you're
about
against
24/7.
windmills? What? So, and this is my issue with the Democrats is they don't know which way. They want green energy, but then they don't want environmental impacts. Just like they wanted the pipeline so that we become energy independent, but they don't want to impact the environment while doing so. I mean, you really can't
I think
have it
you're
both
right. I think you're
ways.
right. I think
Yeah,
that
like you literally can't want green energy and to do have all this
Yeah.
possess all this technology, but then don't want it to at the same time affect the natural habitat. Like you're literally this is literally what you're asking for. And so this is stuff I mean, I don't know how much research. I mean, obviously these are things that they want to prevent, that they're like, okay, before we put these wind turbines in the
What is
water.
interesting, MOD, is what she said is that the New Jersey governor just shut everyone down, according to what Vintage said. Again, I haven't looked that up, but that's what she said.
look. Yeah, well, here's the thing.
By the way, guys, the panel box is now
Jersey's
open if
like
you want to
south.
join the conversation. Go ahead, Vintage.
Jersey's like the Dakotas. We got north and south. I would say this. I would say that this is probably very accurate. I'm not going to. Don't quote me on this, but I strongly stand by this statement. The people that live at this beach, that are very involved in the local area, those lefties are against it. The people that don't live near the coast are probably the ones that MOD is talking about, that are for it. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, well,
Got it.
I live there near one of the Great Lakes, and we have wind turbines near our lake.
Oh,
I've
MOD, we're about to visit you.
Yeah,
We're about to vacate over there.
right. Yeah, so I know somewhat of what you're talking about, which is interesting, is because in Cleveland, I'm about 45 minutes from Cleveland, but we've got a lot of rivers and stuff. I live by one of the major rivers as well. And what's interesting is we hear stuff like this in Democrat cities, but yet and still they're the ones that are running the city.
Right. Vintage,
So
why do New Jersey residents continue to vote for this governor? He's very obnoxious, by the way. What do you think that is? I mean, I know you don't have all the answers, but what do you think that is? Just to get your point of view.
Well, I mean, I don't remember. I don't think it's been a long time since Red won New Jersey, but in the most recent elections, a lot of, like MOD said, a lot of people that were not a fan of Biden just voted blue because it was their dislike of Trump, not their pro Biden.
Got it. Okay, I do want to welcome Fish to the panel. I believe he has a question or a statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to make a statement. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, this is like to Vintage. One thing I noticed about going into the lives, whether it's a liberal or a conservative live, is the reaction you get. And it seems to me that's a much stronger reaction if you say you're voting for Trump than those that say they're voting for Biden. And when you talk about the transition for the next presidency being, a lot of static in the air and all the craziness it's going to cause, think about the hate that comes out and the reasons a lot of people voted for Biden were just rid of Trump. And whether you vote for Biden or an independent, I respect your vote. You have that right. So we're all going to vote for who we want to. Let's respect each other, and then we deal with it. When Obama got voted in, I didn't agree with it, but I dealt with it. And when it comes to Trump, if you think about it, you can look at videos from the 80s where Oprah interviewed him, and he's talking about how he's just so angry that the country's getting taken advantage of. And when he finally ran for president, he told everybody, I'm not a politician. I'm just here trying to make America better. And they got so angry at him and so much hate towards him. And then they all turned on him and trying to find dirt on him. And really, he hasn't changed a lot. He still has America first. He's not the smoothest politician, but he admitted that. And he does say mean things and he's made mistakes. And I agree with that. But the point is, if you go into a live now and you're talking on TikTok and people are asking you who your vote is and you say Trump, you get attacked. MAGA are not all racist. We're not a bunch of crazy gun-toting people that want to see you close the borders and not let anybody in. We want people to come legally. We want our rights. We want America to win before all the other countries win. So whoever you vote for, I respect it. That's all I got to say. And I'm out. I'll drop.
Thank you, Vish. Vintage, you want to reply to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. And I'm not discouraging people. Not, I would never discourage. If you want to vote Trump, vote Trump. I agree 100%. I respect everyone's vote. It's more of a concern. I don't know if it would be an ultimate deterrent. It's just that I think the exhausted majority is just that they're exhausted. And, I really would love to see a cool down effect, but I think you said it earlier, like it really, at this point, the division's so deep that I think it's almost just, even if Trump disappeared, Biden disappeared, would they potentially still, two new candidates rise, and would it just be more red and blue versus blue? It just seems like the divide is so deep.
Yeah,
But
I agree. We'll go back to square one for sure. Yeah.
I agree with him 100%, though. I really think that, I think that the stereotyping, the generalizing is just a big part of the issue.
Yeah.
And I think that Trump, I would love to have seen Trump in a non-defense mode more than a defense mode, because he was it seemed like he was more having to like defend himself against the toxic media than being able to, because I have seen those interviews that he mentioned, and his demeanor is much more calm. His ego's not really like on fire because he's not defensive. And I
Right.
think that stinks, because
And you're also able to see the difference when they interview, let's say, someone like Biden, and then the same journalist interviews Trump. It's like the energy is totally different. I mean, you can clearly see that. Vintage, by the way, since Fish brought it up, just curious, what's your take on the migrant crisis right now? What's your take on that?
I'm just kind of like, well, I did a deep dive into that, and I looked up all the different presidents all the way back to, I think I went back to Reagan, and I shared it on my social media. And I shared the numbers, I shared their speeches. And you know what? They weren't that different. None of them were that. The only one that was probably the most pro and like cool as far as really being neutral was Reagan, as far as his like speeches. But then you look at the policies and the things that they said, and Trump was not, he doesn't stand out as this like monster. Like it's very same. And I just think it's kind of ridiculous that the left and right are fighting over this. I think the more important question as an independent is, we have the technology to create an effective, efficient, humane, and I want to emphasize that too, because I want a legal system, but I also do care about people, and I don't buy the idea that we don't have the technology to create that reality. I think it's more of a, I think it makes me a little very sad. It's very heartbreaking and disheartening to see that any political ideology would use humans to get votes. But I think sometimes that's at play, because I don't believe that we couldn't create, with the technology that we have at our disposal, a system that would make this issue disappear or be significantly reduced.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, yeah. We are, the tech leading when it comes to innovation anyway in the world. So we should be able to use that to our advantage. But yeah, it is frustrating. I do want to welcome Jacqueline to the panel. Go ahead.
Everyone, I was listening to you earlier, MOD. I love you guys' show, Vega and MOD. I'm always getting
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So my intake, I was a Democrat before for the first time I voted for Trump. And the reason I did that was because all the things that I saw under the Obama, I was hoping that he was going to do, and I voted for the second time with the DACA, something was going to happen there. And then I wasn't happy with the Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, among other policies with the wet feet and dry feet with the Cubans, immigration, how that was switched like within 24 hours of his administration being off, and done with. And so the reason why I voted for Trump was because he was not part of the establishment. He's not he was not a political party. He didn't belong to anything. And anything I saw from Joe Biden as a senator and then vice president in, what he did in his own state, and the wars that he supported, the economy, and many other things, other policies with the crime bill. That itself, I know that was a big no for me. So I believe that having Trump in the office, I myself as a Latina, I thrived, economically, for my family and everything I did in my career, personally and professionally. And I'm not in favor of what is going on the border at the immigration right now at all.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Real quick, a shout out to Deb, one of my subscribers. Thank you so much for joining, Deb. I appreciate you. Jacqueline, so Vintage said that she looked at the numbers and that they weren't that different. What do you think about that?
What did she mean? Not that different.
I think she meant as far as the influx and the situation of the border. Is that correct, Vintage?
Let me speak up. I'm not talking about the current situation. I don't know about that. I was just going up to Trump. Like I went from Trump all the way back because they make him the monster. But if you go
Right.
from Trump all the way back
okay. I see what you're saying. I thought you were including Biden.
No, what's going on now, I'm not that in tune with, but
Got it.
so
Okay.
like you guys please school me on that. I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah. So I mean, I've reported this on my page a lot, and the numbers are record breaking. I mean, I believe the month of December we had over 300,000, if I'm not mistaken, in 1 month. Yeah. Thank you, Jeffrey, in the comment section just did post that. I know because I reported on this on my page about the month of December. I mean, record breaking, but. And a lot of people can say it's cyclical. A lot of presidents, all the presidents have dealt with this, which is fine. Thank you, MM, by the way, on the comment section there. The thing for me that's different now is how easy it is to get into the US. And on top of that, we're seeing how the sanctuary cities that is getting all these migrants, how their shelter system is collapsing, basically. And the benefit system is also near collapse. And you have New York City, which is doing budget cuts. And so we didn't see that before, or at least I didn't see it in the last 15, 20 years. So, we did have an immigration problem, no doubt about it. We've always had it. But the type of individuals that are coming now have a different mentality from what I've seen and reported on. It's a complete different mentality. They want to get the free work permits. They want to get shelter. They want to get food. And sometimes they complain. I do a lot of complaining videos. You should check it out, by the way. And so, to me, it's like we're getting to a whole different territory here, a new territory, and it's not a good one from the trend that I'm seeing. And so the message continues to spread that they can continue to come and get all these benefits and continue to demand things that all these immigrants that we've known. I'm an immigrant myself, by the way. I didn't cross the border, but I'm an immigrant. So, all of these immigrants never went through that process so easily and got all these benefits like that. So it's very disturbing. And on top of that, as I said, it's very easy to get through. The vetting process is almost non-existent from what we've seen. I've actually interviewed 2 migrants on my live streams here, and they told us, they can just get through South and Central America without any issues, even if you have no documentation. As long as you pay a fee, they let you through eventually. And then at the border, the U.S. border, also you just claim asylum. They do a quick interview, and then if you're able to prove that sense of fear, then they just catch you and release you with a date. What could happen years from now at a court date interview, and so.
Vega, sorry to interrupt you. It's called notice to appear in court, where you go.
Yes, thank you.
NTA. It's an NTA. Everyone.
NTA. Yes, I forgot about it. Thank you. Yes, it's called an NTA, notice to appear, correct, in court, and that could be like years from now. I think one person got like 7 years or 8 years. I heard of another case recently. A person that mutuals that knows of someone, and she got, I believe, was 3 or 4 years. Imagine that. And this person is going to get benefits because she brought kids with her. She has children. And so it's just a complete nightmare from that standpoint. Okay, I want to welcome Kraken to the panel. I think he's been waiting for a while there. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say, Maud, I love you. I've been following you for a while. And Vega, just started following you recently, and I just wanted to say, like, give you my point of view. I
Thank you,
never
by the
was
way.
into politics. I never was into politics or cared too much about politics until 2016 when Trump was elected president. No one expected it. I know I didn't. He became president. In the 4 years he was president, things were good. You know, we weren't paying through the nose for things like gas or anything. I mean, we weren't in any wars. Uh, our country was, for the most part, in a good spot, in a good position. I mean, life was all right. Life was good. Then we got to 2020, and I assumed he would be reelected. And I never seen the government go after a president more than him. And I was shocked, to be honest. And like I said, I was never into politics prior to this. Didn't care too much. Once I seen how much they were going after him and how bad they didn't want him in office, because he's not your typical he's not a politician, you know. And they started calling him all kinds of names and putting labels on him that weren't true, you know. Up until 2016, everybody loved Trump. If you notice that, before he ran for president, everybody was his friend. Everybody loved him. He was cool. He became president. They automatically started calling him a racist, this, that, the other. And then when he ran for re-election, it was, I can't say too much about what happened on the 6th because I don't want to get into that. But they basically came together and prevented this man from being reelected. This is my opinion, by the way. So then they put Joe in, who can't even speak. This vice president can't even speak. None of them have any real rational thoughts. Now we're involved in how much crap with things like Ukraine, billions of dollars going to Ukraine. Now we're helping Israel. And we have our vets sleeping on the streets. And the drug epidemic is out of control, on top of the borders being opened. I mean, record high numbers coming across the border. That's insane to me. And then you have to have the Texas government or the Texas state government step in and say, no, we're going to control the borders, and tell the federal government to step back. Now, I don't know what's going to happen.
And they're being sued, by the way, by the federal government. Just like to add that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, how often does that happen with?
Yeah, so just for context, for those that don't know, sorry, Kraken, I just want to, just for context. So Border Patrol, it belongs to Biden, right? He's under control of that. But Border Patrol is instructed to cut the what's it called again? Is it the wires, the razor wires, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the razor wires that were set up by Texas, so they're instructed to cut them when migrants are coming in for safety reasons. Yes, razor wire. Thank you, Sydney. And also they're against Texas putting the barriers, the buoys, right? And so there's this back and forth where Texas is taking over certain ports. I believe they took over Eagle Pass. And so Biden is suing to reverse that decision. The Biden administration is suing to reverse that decision because they want to put Border Patrol agents there so that they can continue to assist, to process, not to stop them, but to process them to enter the country. So Border Patrol is there to process the migrants to enter the country, not to stop them. I know some people in the comment section in some of my videos were confused about that. Like, I don't get it. Biden's Border Patrol is there to assist the migrants to continue their path into the United States. Texas wants to block them completely from getting into that process. Does that make sense? So yes. That's where we are right now. Go ahead, Kraken, if you want to add more to that.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, now I know everybody else has to feel it because the cost of things in this country in the past 4 years have gone through the roof. I mean, it's hard to afford anything for me personally. I mean, I get paid, every single dime goes to a bill. I'm lucky if I have $25, $50 to spend on what I want to spend on.
So,
It's
Kraken,
outrageous.
in personal, please tell me to stop. So are you saying that you're living paycheck to paycheck right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. What's it like? When did it start for you?
I would say it started about a year and a half ago when it
Wow.
started getting real rough. Yeah.
Ergo in the comment section is saying that him too. He's also paycheck to paycheck. What do you think about this, Vintage, when you hear stories like this?
Are you asking me?
Vintage, you
Oh, I'm
gotta
sorry.
mute. It's okay. Vintage, are you there? Oh, there you go.
So sorry.
Go ahead. By the way, guys, just for context, those joining, Vintage Vibes, she is the independent voter. She's the special guest. Mother of Dragon, she's the co-host, and she's also joining here in the panel. So the question for Vintage was, what do you think about when you hear stories like Kraken, living paycheck to paycheck, or Ergo in the comment section?
I mean, I'm right there with him. I think it's the ultimate gaslight when we hear like when I hear like the media or the White House press conferences say that inflation is back to pre-pandemic. I'm like, if that's not the ultimate gaslight, what is? I don't. My reality doesn't concur. My reality. So I'm sorry you're in that same boat as I'm right there with you, Kraken. So, I not to divulge too much, but everything was fine up until 2021, where I was working, and then because of the new federal policies, my particular state got very, very authoritarian, and I lost my livelihood like overnight. And I'll just leave it at that. So it was a really difficult experience, and I'm still not recovered from it. It was pretty nuts. So I think a lot of Americans agree with you, and that's a sad reality.
Thank you for responding to that, Vintage. I do want to welcome Willow to the panel. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for having me on here. I just wanted to make just a comment to like the current situation with the illegals coming into the country, and now that the Supreme Court has ruled in favor with Biden, and now they're just a bunch.
What do you mean the rule in favor? Was this like breaking right now, or
Yeah, this is like currently going on right now. They just ruled in favor.
about what?
They told them to cut down the barbed wires and to take them down. And so my question is how are we as Americans going to like stop this? How are we going to protect our livelihood and our way of living?
Sorry, hold on before you continue, Willow. I just want to just fact check you there. Guys, it's actually correct. I just Googled it right now. She was saying that because I'm reporting on this, but stuff keeps coming up, every other day or so. So, per Reuters, U.S. Supreme Court lets Border Patrol remove Texas razor wire fencing for now. And this was reported today, January 22nd at 5 p.m. Pacific, would be 8 p.m. Eastern for you guys. So, about 2 hours ago, give or take. Wow. That's shocking. Go ahead, Willow. Thank you for letting us know, by the way.
Yeah, I know. News kind of moves super quickly around here. But my thoughts is like, how are we as Americans gonna be able to like stop this? Like, what's gonna happen now? I just want to hear like other people's opinion on that. Like, how are we going to get together to stop this from happening? Because if we don't, the repercussions of this is we don't have a life, we don't have a way of living anymore, and we become basically a communist country. So I would like to hear thoughts on that.
Got it. So the question is, how do we solve this? How do we stop this now? I'll let last. I'll let everybody else chip in here. MOD, do you want to respond to that question first?
So like I stated before, like I think going into this year, I think what makes me the most nervous is that we're not necessarily we're not necessarily focused on the real issue. We're too divided by race, gender, ideology. We kind of look at each other like, as if we're the enemy. Um, and really not looking at like who's actually pulling the strings here. I think what makes me the most nervous is that whatever president that we have, people will seem to think that it is a means to start turning against one another. And I think we're sort of headed towards we're headed towards something that I don't even want to talk about to be honest. But I
But MOD, this is all intended for entertainment purposes only and pure
yeah,
speculation.
like I I really do hope that we can.
Come on, MOD, talk to us about your novel that you're writing, that fiction novel. Go ahead. I know you're working on it.
Okay, so I feel like we're headed towards at least what I would think is civil war. And it won't be because it honestly won't be because of what we think is us as states coming against the government. It's going to be state against state. And right now, like, look at what's going on in Texas. You got 25 states that have essentially turned their back on the federal government and said, go F yourself. We're not scared of you. If we had something like Texas secede from the union, we were just talking about this earlier. I was talking to a couple of my friends of mine. Texas secedes from the union. Do you know how much that it would destroy the economy? People would like turn on
Huge impact. Tremendous.
It has the
I don't even want to imagine.
Yeah, eighth largest GDP in the world. We have most of our oil reserves are in Texas. It would devastate the entire United States economy, if not the world economy. If not to mention that one of the major ports for import and export, you have the offshore drilling in the Gulf. I mean, listen, you've got. You don't want to piss off states like Texas, right? And I hear people on the left right now talking about, oh, that's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. Bullshit. I would almost listen. If Texas doesn't secede by the end of this year, I'd be surprised.
So, MOD, but so going back to the question, is that your response as far as how can we stop it? Is that how you think they're going to stop it?
How do we stop this? Is that we have to come together and realize that our government. I mean, Joe Biden, what he's doing is he's provoking the hell out of Texas. And if you think that one moment that they would not pull out of the union, I think people are completely underestimating the mind frame of Texas, and they are ready to go. I mean, if they wanted to.
Do you think the Texas residents will agree with this governor if he does try to do that?
I mean, I even said, I have friends that live in Texas. I got family that lives in Texas. I even said it. I said, shit, if Texas leaves the union, I'm going to Texas. There's no way in the world I would want to be on the side of Texas going toe to toe with the federal government. No, I'm good.
Right.
My great.
So Emily, so you're saying is to stop it, we have to come together, meaning all of us, all Americans.
We have to stop Joe Biden. I'm sorry, but what he's doing is just not this. It's not at this moment. He's got us on the verge. If we lose Texas, I mean, look, my state. I live in the great state of Ohio.
Yeah.
We sent some of our people down there. Like it's going to rip the country apart. Essentially.
You know, it's interesting, MOD, because I remember one of the first times that we had this interviews. You mentioned that you weren't that big on immigration. Remember, this was like a few months ago, but it seems like now you're a bit more concerned about it.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I'm like, and I kind of made a joke earlier, and I totally pissed off somebody on the left. Like he was so triggered, and I said, you know what? I said, it's really interesting that if Texas did secede from the union and became its own sovereign nation, would the Democrats be opposed to me going to Texas and crossing the border? Like, would they have a problem with it? And this guy gets so pissed, you could tell, because he's just like, Texas can't tell us what to do, and they can't just take people in. I'm like, oh, really? It's funny how, like, if the tide turns, the Democrats really don't like it when it's against them, but when when it benefits them, they're perfectly fine with it. So,
Yeah.
Thank you, Modi. Okay, I want to
Yeah, go
give Vintage the time to answer here. Vintage, do you want to answer that? I know you're in the middle, but do you want to answer that? How do we stop what's happening right now, or do you
Um,
want to move forward?
no, I mean, I strongly encourage more local responsibility when any of these issues, if you really look at, like, most things could lead to that being a good insulator, because it's really hard for any of us to say that we're empowered or have power when we're at the mercy of a system that is really, like, seemingly being, like, clawed at the seams by both the left and the right with this, like, division. So at the very least, I think that to not so much stop it, but to have more power would be to take more responsibility for some basics like food, autonomy with your water. Just, just think of the things you need to survive, because when you have those things met, and if, no matter what comes, like, if you have some kind of responsibility and liberty with those essentials, regardless of, because so much of this is out of our control, you can at least be empowered to know that, like, because money is power, that's your energy, it's one and the same. So, like, if you wanted to, like, you know pull money away from, some of this stuff to quote unquote stop it, whether it be bigger corps or whatever have you. It really depends on the way you look at the world right now. You can't do really, or these strikes or anything at all that would require mass organization and something that, like, we all agree we're going to do this in unison. If we don't have our basics secured, how are we going to do anything? That's where I'm at. So I'm going to try to get more involved locally. It's healthy too. It's healthier. And then to us, and if you have the time and energy, and, please, like, even look at your surrounding areas that just get, like, like, that have, like, just a Walmart, and they don't have their own economy. So they're really disempowered. They're not running their local economies usually. So they don't, so if you live in an area that has a lot of local mom and pa, like, just try to keep where you live empowered is my best advice, because most of this is out of our control to a large degree. And why not just be in the here and now where you live? What can I do here and now where I live to, be smart, because this thing, it does feel very fragile right now, right? Things are a little wonky.
Got it. So be more involved locally. Vintage is saying. Go ahead, Jacqueline. How do we stop this migrant crisis now, you think?
Well, one of the things, Vega, I think you can also test to this because of the Hispanic news. Like, I was looking at some of the comments in there. Isn't Donald Trump against immigration or racist and stuff? And as you know, right now, I don't know if you just saw the most recent interview that Jorge Ramos, how he's trying to put Trump up, that he's a white supremacist.
Good old Jorge. Wow. Good old Jorge.
So, but we're not talking about, like, for instance, when I working on the immigration myself, I did it with Obama. We have, through the Immigration Naturalization Act, as you know, as immigrants, we have to go through a process, a physical exam. They have to do legal background. We're not doing any of that. We're not looking at what contagious diseases they have. We have to go through all of that before everything. You get the notice to appear before a judge. Then you are knowing your rights, as an immigrant. Then they give you everything from beginning to end about what your status of your application of residency. Then you get the permission to work and so on and so forth. We are not getting none of that. We have to also have a sponsor to know where are we going when we come to the United States, what family member or friend, whoever's going to sponsor us, and how, where they live. And we don't have none of that right now. And that is what the scariest part. Yes, Donald Trump did mention during his communication, but he was talking about the MS-13. He wasn't talking about that he was against come through the port of entry legally according to the Immigration Naturalization Act. Go through the legal, everyone is welcome as long as they go through that process. And at no point in time was he talking about you, me, and every person that's coming through, trying to come to the United States. He mentioned about MS-13, which you already know in El Salvador. That was a huge problem for decades. So to me, I think we need to come together and educate ourselves, just like you do in here on this show. You always come out and put, like just right now, that that it went into Biden's favor to remove the protection that Texas is trying to do, that not allowing them to come into our states. And that is the other problem is that we have so much misinformation, like right now, I was in another life. They were talking about that how Trump is such an animal, that he separated the children from their families, that he went ahead and lost all these children. But they're not talking about what's happening to the children right now. They're not discussing what Biden is
Correct.
doing.
Complete silence.
Exactly. And I was trying to explain to them, regardless, when the children come through the borders, we have to separate them, because we have to make sure that whoever says that this is a person, this adult is saying that he or she is the father, the uncle, the brother, whatever, we have to verify it. And Joe Biden is not even verifying any of
It's
that.
not. Yep. Let me tell you, I've been covering this story now for a little bit, and I've received some wild videos of kids in that area that I can't even post because I know my account will be taken down. Like, it's crazy videos. Crazy videos. Kraken, go ahead. How do we stop this?
Honestly, I'm not sure how to stop this. I really don't know. I do know that the people are listening to the left tell them that things like Trump is racist and the right is racist and all the conservatives are, anti everything. And it's sad because none of it's true, so we get labeled as that. And it makes me happy whenever I see my Latino and Black brothers and sisters defend it, saying that it's not true and that we are all together in this together. And allowing anybody to cross the border is just insane to me. How many thousands of people a day? And, Matt Taibbi, I don't know if you guys know who that is, but Matt Taibbi went down to the border and was just simply interviewing, randomly people coming across the border. A majority of them were men by themselves from Russia, China, the Middle East, Syria. I mean, this is crazy. Are they our allies? What are they doing here? Are they here to work? But that's all they give them is their name, and they act like they can't speak English, but they can, and at least enough to have a conversation. And at the same time, nobody, the left doesn't want to recognize this or even acknowledge it. But whenever we have someone from our side go down there and try to figure out what's going on, the truth, it's, they try to shut it down. Like, what are all these men, military-aged men from every country? What are they doing coming into our country? What is the point of that? That's not really seeking asylum. That's something else.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that there's certainly that concern that these sanctuary cities are going through that economic struggle right now, specifically those that have lower income. They're seeing how migrants have priority over citizens, and we see them complaining and yelling about it. I'll have videos on my page, you can check it out. And that's the economic side of it, right? But there's also the safety side of it that perhaps concerns me the most. So I actually did a couple of videos on Kayla Hamilton. She was unalived back in 2022 by a migrant that was detained at the southern border. I want to say allegedly, by the way. that was allegedly detained at the southern border. And when police investigated this further, turns out that he belongs to or has ties to the MS-13 gang from El Salvador, as Jacqueline just mentioned. And so he raped her and he unalived her in a brutal way that I don't want to share here because I want to protect the life, but you can check my videos on it. And it's just amazing how he was able to get through. And again, goes to show how the vetting system is completely useless right now, the vetting system from the Biden administration. And so they were able to recognize that he is part of the MS-13 gang. I'm sure they would have been able to recognize that before he came in. And so the mother was on Capitol Hill, I believe, last week to testify and give her, share the story. I actually got in touch with the mother, by the way, of Kayla Hamilton, and she said that she is willing to come here on my show and podcast to share her story. So I may have her soon. I'm trying to schedule that with her because as I was doing research on this story, I went to all these other mainstream media networks like CNN, NBC, even talk shows like The View, and none of those reported on this story, which truly shocked me because it's a huge story. It's such a shame that this happened, and nobody's reporting on it. Only the small local news reporting on this story, and then the left wing, Univision and Telemundo, right? They reported it. I think only one video I found from each, and that's about it. But most mainstream media networks did not really report on this or had these conversations about that case. So that's why I want to have the mother herself to come here so we can talk to her directly so she can share her story. And it's just truly a shame. So that's the safety side that really concerns me, because us immigrants, we go through a process, like Jacqueline said. It's a rigorous process. You have to provide criminal background checks, healthcare records, financial status. And if you don't have financial status, then you need a sponsor so that you don't become a burden to the state, right? So that, again, but it's all connected. So economic and safety. But right now, what the migrants are doing is they get to the border, they claim fear for life, and they seek asylum. And so they do a quick interview to verify the sense of fear. And I do air quotes because it's just completely silly interview. And then they just get released into the US with an NTA, as she mentioned earlier, Jacqueline. And that's about it. I have spoken to migrants here on the show, and they have confirmed this. The interview is not that heavy, and it's just the struggle for them is just to get to the border. That's about it. Once they're at the border, it's just they get caught, they turn themselves in, and then they go through the interview process, which is a quick one, and then just get released into the country. And that's about it. I mean, you can see this, by the way, if you just do a quick search about migrants. There's a lot of interviews out there of these migrants, and they tell you the story. I mean, it's just very simple to get through. And that's the scary part, is that, and I know Jacqueline mentioned Jorge Ramos, right? The journalist. He's more like an activist. His point of view on this is that most of the migrants are good people. You have a small percentage of them that are bad. And so he's saying that we shouldn't be freaked out about it because it's just a small percentage of them. The thing is that I don't want that small percentage or any of those from that small percentage group to be in my community. I don't want to be a Kayla Hamilton, and I don't think any American should be subjected to something like that. And the fact that he goes on television and says something so ridiculous and nobody calls them out for it is beyond unbelievable to me. So according to him, it's okay not to worry about the migrants because the minority of them will do bad things. So what about the victim on the other side? Does anybody care about the victim on the other side? I mean, according to him, it's just no big deal. It's beyond insane. So I think the way to stop it will be, first of all, to get rid of Biden, no doubt about it. I mean, vote him out. Just vote him out right away. We need someone that will stop this immediately. Just shut it down first. You need to shut it down now. And then from there, this asylum loopholes, because it's a loophole, it needs to be changed completely. None of this, oh, asylum and then processed and then you get dumped into the US. No, you need to prove your case. And I guess that's where we can go into the technology side of it. I believe somebody mentioned it, that we do have a lot of technology. We should be able to use it. So we should be able to use technology to make the process faster and easier so that we don't have to put so much burden on the judges and on Border Patrol. And perhaps if most people will get denied 8 years from now, they should get denied today. That's how I see it. But again, Congress also has to act. We have a lazy Congress, and that goes for the Republicans too. I mean, the Republicans are to blame for this too, by the way, because they should have resolved this back 10, 15 years ago, and they didn't. So here we are. And so I think we should use technology. The border should be shut down. The asylum seeking process should be completely changed. And then on top of that, and when now you have the bigger issue also is those that are already in the country, what do you do with them? You can't really get them out because a lot of them already have benefits, have some form of NTA, right? Which is like that interview that they're going to have that appointment. Some of them do have work permits already, so you can't get rid of them, but they were not vetted properly. So it's like we're going to have to deal with that and see what happens. Hope for the best. But at least we need something or someone to shut this down immediately. That's what I think. And then just sort of try to use technology and take it from there. But this asylum seeking process needs to be radically changed immediately. They need to completely update it because they are communicating with each other. The migrants are communicating with each other. I know of a migrant that's a mutual of a mutual. This person is telling her friends back in Venezuela and then family of her friends how to go through the process that family went through to make it to the border. And a family of 15 or 18 people made it through just, I believe, last month. And so that family is also giving instructions to another family because they know the system already. They know the loopholes. They know what words to use. They know which towns to get into in Central and South America, which paths to take, and they're communicating, and that's how they continue to come in. So it's chain migration, but without vetting system, basically. By the way, I'm an immigrant. I'm for chain migration. I've brought people here under Trump and under Biden legally as a sponsor because I'm an American citizen, legally. But this is another side of chain migration. They're just saying, hey, go through this town, meet this person here, and then you pay this much. And then once you get to the border, you say this, and then you wait, and that's it. By the way, there are others that are already here. And I did some videos about this too. When it comes to migrants that have kids, they say, if you stay at this shelter for this long, and you say you have nowhere else to go, they can give you a shelter for like up to 2 years if you have a kid, a private shelter where you have your private bathroom and your little bedroom. It's like crazy. So they're communicating with each other because they know the system already. They know it better than us. I have to ask questions about this to some of the benefit workers. They know it better than us. It's so crazy. Go ahead, MOD.
You hit the nail right on the head because look at the people that are coming across the border. They're obviously getting help. I mean, these people aren't, oftentimes we do get migrants that come to the border that have gotten, beat up in the desert or whatever the case may be, have had a really, hard trek getting here. And I'm not saying that every immigrant that comes here should look like that. Because I'm certainly not advocating for. I've seen some very horrible things happen to people, but the ones that are coming over here in vans, caravans, I mean, they obviously have some underground system to which the networking and things like that they're by way of getting over here. But look at the I don't know if anybody saw the video. There was a gentleman from the Middle East coming in through the southern border. He's obviously not the country of his origin. Obviously, for him would not be any of these southern countries. So he's obviously from the Middle East, and he says, like, you guys are stupid if you don't know who I am. You're going to find out very, very quickly who I am.
I heard about that,
Yeah,
but
I
I
mean, he made
couldn't
it
didn't get a
very
chance to read into that. What was that all about?
he made a very ominous threat, and I kind of like the reporter was like, how entitled, the sense of entitlement that you have. But this guy had the same sort of what gave me the inclination that he might be someone we need to sort of kind of
Look into
focus on
deeply.
and look into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that mod.
Yeah, I mean, for someone to have that sort of confidence, I mean, this is not. I've dealt with a
H.
lot of
Cal is saying conspiracy
yeah, I've
theory.
dealt with a lot of criminals in my life, and
You can look it up, by the way, H. Cal. I saw an article
yeah,
about it.
I could tell you one thing is the more sophisticated criminals that are a lot more the ones that are very, very sophisticated at what they do, that's indicative of what I saw is a very, very person who was sophisticated and doing exactly what he was supposed to do was to give that type of warning. So I hope that the FBI is looking into him. I hope they're actually going to do their job instead of trying to investigate Trump. I mean, because when you want to talk about terrorism, and I'm not saying that this guy is associated with any form of terrorism at all. I'm not inferring that, but the type of I don't know, it's just something about this guy that seemed off, but also you knew exactly who he was when he
No,
said
but
it.
thank you for bringing that up because I did mention the safety part of it and I talked about Kayla Hamilton, right? But that's
Yeah.
more like an individual case. But also, you did bring up a good point. The military aged man, besides South America, we're also taking people in from Africa now and all these other countries over there in Europe and even Asia too, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm concerned about that because there are parts of the world that they don't like us too much,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
And if we have those enemies on the other side, who's to say they're not saying, "Hey, we can just enter through there, send
Yeah, Vega, we have
infiltrate."
guys
Go ahead,
coming in
Kraken.
from Iran. We have guys coming in from Iran down there.
Exactly. We have guys coming in from countries that we can't even deport them because we have no relationship with those countries.
Can I like make a comment?
Go ahead, Willow.
Yeah, no, I definitely see.
By the way, did that answer your question? Everybody gave their point of view. What's your take on that?
Yes, thank you everybody for giving me your point of view on that. I agreed with like a revolution probably being made, or just like I think she left the chat, but I think she was saying that we need to start on a local level and like kind of work together. I totally agree with that as well. But then there's gonna if we don't start like literally right now doing something and getting together, there's not going to be anything. And then we also have to like take in the risk of like being people saying that like we're committing like treason. And so that's also another risk. So we'll have to be like really smart if we do something about this. But I was just gonna make a comment to what you guys were just discussing about the guy who was at the border saying you better like watch out for me. Exactly. Biden wants all these people to come fund these wars because Americans don't want to go fighting these wars for good reason, because there's not that patriotism that used to be there. Men used to go out willingly because there was a cause, right? Because there was a common ground amongst Americans. But now, like, really nobody wants to go run these wars. And so then Biden is basically going to put us in war. There's definitely going to be a World War III. I 100% believe that. Because we're helping too many wars right now. But he's getting all these men over here to go in the place of, Americans. But like you guys were saying, who's to say those people won't turn on other soldiers? Who's to say they won't use them as spies to hurt Americans? And I'm like super scared about that. Like I'm super worried for Americans who are in the military for that to like happen to them, and then just in general for our country. Like, what are we gonna do about that if that happens?
I agree.
No, I hear you. I mean, it's a whole cluster. I mean, everything from every standpoint. I mean, economically for the whole country, I don't think we might be impacted that much. You know, by the way, a lot of these people are future consumers too. By the way, you know, for our big companies, because I invest in the stock market a lot, and so a lot of these people, I don't think it will affect that too much. This will affect the poor communities more. People that have money, they're not going to be affected by this, I don't believe. You know, the stock market, I don't think is going to be affected by this, but people in those poor communities are going to be affected deeply on an economic standpoint. Now, security wise, yes, anybody can be affected at that point. That's my opinion from trends that I see. I do want to welcome to the panel my four kings. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I agree with everything that you guys are saying, and I too am very scared because it seems like they're all military-aged men, and with like the Dreamers when they came over, you could tell they were so grateful to be here, and they weren't crossing the border with their home country flags, waving them in our face. I feel like these ones were promised something in their country for whatever reason. Who promised it, I don't know. But it's almost like they were promised something or guaranteed. Like, so I feel like something happened somewhere and somebody promised them the world and they fell for it and came here. Now they're sleeping in cardboard boxes. And that's kind of sad. But also they're taking over our shelters. I know a woman, she has 3 children. She left her husband because she was being abused and she has no place to go. She's living in her mother's basement with no heat, no running water down there. The mother is abusive to her and it's so sad. It's so sad. I live in Massachusetts. And in Massachusetts, I got flagged for saying this, and I'm going to say it again. My governor got on and asked us if we could house migrants in our homes, if we could house them in our homes. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that she said these things, and she did say it. That if we have extra rooms or anything, you know, that we can house them. And I noticed that they all have brand new sneakers. I don't know what's going on there. But they all come over. If you walked here, your sneakers look damn good. I can't let my kids walk down the street without their sneakers getting dirty. And these people all have brand new, nice sneakers on.
Yeah, so some of them have better phones than you have, by the way, for the record. And even though this is all intended for entertainment purposes only and pure speculation, I do want to fact check what she said here. This is per Boston 25 News. And this article is from August 9, 2023. And this is just a small section of the article. So it says, the situation is so bad that the Healy administration, this is the governor of Massachusetts, the wonderful governor of Massachusetts, it's so bad that the Healy administration is now asking people to open their homes and businesses to help people in need. And I quote, most importantly, if you have an extra room or suite in your home, please consider hosting a family. Housing and shelter is our most pressing need, and become a sponsor family. So that's what she said. I want to just go ahead, my four kingdom.
Not house a veteran or a battered woman with 3 kids. House somebody who isn't even supposed to be in this country, though.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't believe me, you can Google this. You can put Massachusetts governor asks residents to house migrants. Google it yourself. Even though this is all pure speculation, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But you can Google it yourself and you can see it's right there, guys.
You know
It's
what?
right there. MOD, do you have any extra room, by the way?
Oh, definitely not.
Definitely do not. No, I've got 4 children.
Anybody here has extra room?
How's the ones here? But you know what I find interesting about this is a lot of these people are under this program under Obama. I mean, might as well say Obama.
Same thing, no?
For some reason, every time I think of Biden, I think of Obama. It's so strange. But
I wonder why, MOD. What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? I'm going to press you on this.
I don't know. Like every time I want to say Biden, I say Obama. Like it's crazy. But especially under this new rule or this new law policy that he passed last year was they were having their sponsors come and fly them over. So they're supposed to be sponsored by someone here in the United States under the parolee program, which I find to be very, very interesting because if that's the case, then I'm just kind of wanting to know what these immigrants are getting here. Where are their sponsors at? Are all of the are the parolees where they're supposed to be at? Because I'm hearing a lot of reports of these people being flown into these airports from these countries, and then they're sitting in the airport. So if they're why are citizens being asked to sponsor these people?
So when I hear about the airports, I don't believe it's internationally, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the airport, when it comes to the airport situation, they're coming from like Texas or, mainly Texas that's sending them out, trying to find different ways to beat the loopholes, right? Because the sanctuary cities are now putting ordinances against the buses, right? So they're not necessarily coming from other countries. When it comes to the plane arrivals, I could be wrong, but
I would hope so. But there's so much secrecy about any
true. Of that is very true. But I think most are coming through the border without sponsors. That's the thing. And I tell you that because I've sponsored people, and obviously they came via plane. So that's how the process goes. You go to your sponsors. I mean, they interview you. They interview everyone that I sponsored. Immigration interviews them at the airport. Where you going? What's the contact information? And they have it there. They're just asking to see if they know, who the sponsor is.
That most of them already know when they're being interviewed, and I've seen it on your videos too. They already know what city and state that they're going to. They're
true. Yes,
and that's how they're being flown into because they already know specifically where they want to go to.
Yes, no, but I mean, it's like, let's say a Venezuelan person cannot take a plane to go to Miami and just land and say, "Hey, I have asylum," because over there they ask for your visa in the Venezuelan airport. That's what I'm trying to say, because MOD is saying that they're, how are they coming via plane? We're the sponsor. So from what I've seen, they're not allowed to go in the plane without a proper visa. And it goes back to what I'm saying. The immigrants that are doing it the right way, they are being punished. They wait longer periods of time. They have to pay expensive fees to get their visas and send all of this documentation to be able to maybe get approved. So the migrants, when I say migrants, I mean people that are coming to the border. So the migrants get to the border and then they just seek asylum and boom, you're in. Free entry. They don't pay anything. And on top of that, they are requesting free work permits. I mean, you couldn't write this stuff. You couldn't. And in the fact that they don't get the work permits, it upsets most of them. And I report this on my channel. You can see it. They're like, "Oh, what do you expect? I can't work because I don't have a work permit because it takes a long time to get it and it's expensive." And they're mad about it. And I'm like, how are you mad about it when no one sponsored you? It's like unbelievable. Like the mentality that they have is just, I just don't understand it.
Yeah, this new group, like I feel ever since the election,
yes, it's a new group.
They are so entitled, and ones that have came here before and they have gotten jobs, and some of them still aren't legal citizens, and it's not fair. Like, I feel like they've put their time in here. I'm not saying that there's not, something needs to be fixed in our immigration system. You should not have to wait 10 years, and it should not be that expensive to get
Yeah.
approved. Something has to give. But these ones that are so entitled, it's like, dude, my husband goes to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't get home till 8 o'clock at night. He works nights. We have an online business. We paid $3,500 a month to rent our house. I don't work. Like, we have 4 kids. One we're putting through college, and the entitlement of these people. It's like, yeah, I would love free things too. Shoot. I mean, wouldn't we all? But who?
It's unbelievable. I'm
this?
telling you. I mean, you got to watch these interviews. It's like, I'm this close, by the way. I'm considering going to one of these ports of entries to interview them myself. Just because I really need to get these answers. Like, why are you so entitled? You know, I see all of these interviews and nobody's asking them the right questions. Do you understand that what you're saying does not qualify you for asylum? Nobody's asking those questions. So I'm this close. Honestly, I may do a show from one of these ports of entries myself because
Now, how
I
do you
don't
feel
get it.
about-
I don't get
Just
it.
going on something.
How do you feel about the decision today in Texas?
Willow just brought it up. I'm in shock.
Yeah.
I'm
I
in
can't even
shock.
believe it.
I'm
I
in
can't
shock.
even believe it.
Just going on that, something you said, My Four Kings. I was actually watching a video a little while back. I think it was in Europe. Where this video took place, but it was about an immigrant and this mother and her daughter. They were coming out of this apartment, right? And there's this man who's coming up, doesn't look, in too good of a shape, and she notices him, and she starts to like quietly like back up because his behavior was very unnerving, right? And so then she's not wanting to seem kind of like she's being racist or anything, so she slowly starts to back up. But then this man totally comes at her, and she goes in the door, but he was able to open it and grab her. He grabs her, drags her on the ground and her daughter, and they fall to the ground. And then he proceeds to like start physically abusing her. And then eventually I think that I don't remember the rest of it, but I think there was like a dog or something that happened that made him turn around and go somewhere else. But just to see like that's what our country could be looking like, and probably has been looking like, and just hasn't been reported, is crazy to think about.
No, I mean, it is beyond insane. And by the way, it's not that like I'm going to stop the whole thing from happening, but I just want to get those answers. 'Cause I really want to get into that mentality and see like who told you can come here, tell us this story that makes no sense, doesn't qualify you for asylum. And on top of that, you're upset that you're not going to get work permits. I mean, per mutual acquaintances, I do know of some from Venezuela that are here and they're like, nobody helps me. You know, we're struggling to make it here. And I'm like, nobody told you to come. Nobody sponsored you. What do you think was going to happen? It's like, I just, I don't understand that mentality. I just don't get it. I want to welcome to the panel, John. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. I just want to mention, I'm not sure if you guys actually pay attention to the clip about
You're breaking up, John. It seems like your signal is really low.
earlier that's Naomi noticed. They all look like bodyguards.
John, you're breaking up.
And the other thing that
John, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
It seems like you're breaking up. Seems like your signal is really low.
Yes, I can.
I'm to drop and come back in.
Yeah, John, I'm going to drop you. Your signal is low. We can't hear you. Just send a request again. Yeah, guys, if you're joining, the live for tonight is talking to an independent voter. We did interview her, but I believe she dropped. Maybe she had to go, but the conversation turned into the migrant crisis that we have right now in the country. And so we were all throwing ideas of how we can solve this problem if we had the power to do so or tell our government to do so. MOD, what's your take about this? Everything that's been shared here?
So I think moreover, holding the we have to kind of keep holding steadfast with holding our government responsible, because like I said, ultimately we have more questions than we do answers. Just like I was saying with the immigrants being flown over here, I understand under that parolee program, that they're supposed to have a sponsor, but the United States is, having them, fly over or whatever the case may be, which I don't, it seems if it's the same parolee program, I don't know why he would have to institute it, which leads me to believe there's something else being done. So I'm just kind of wondering how's that, like we rarely don't even hear about any of that, which leads me to believe that a lot of these people that are being flown over here are not being sponsored, or they have these sponsors, these companies or whoever's sponsoring these people, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. I just don't know if I trust what's being reported fully in the media, obviously. But I think one thing that we have to do, we have the responsibility of doing, is we need to start putting more pressure on our the people that we elected into Congress. That we need more answers, and they're not really doing enough. They're focused on the wrong thing. Everybody's focused on Trump, but we've got a real situation here. I don't want to see people sleeping down the street. I don't care if they're not supposed to be in this country either way. I mean, it's a very, very cold winter. Up here in Ohio, it's been consistently in the 20s, single digits in 20s for the last few weeks now. I can't imagine how cold it is in New York. I can't imagine how cold it is in Chicago. I can't even imagine, even with the cold temperatures in Texas, nobody should be, women and children and people sleeping out on the streets, in cots in police stations, holed up and behind curtains at an airport in Chicago. None of this should be happening, and there's obviously a real issue here with all of the empty homes that we do have. This seems maybe a bit socialist in nature, but I mean, my God, even the Democrats that are pushing for like stuff like socialism are not even practicing it. I would have a lot more respect if they actually put into action what they preach so hard.
Well, because socialists that are at the top, they never do it. They never practice it. They want us to practice it.
Yeah, they just want what they actually really want is more power and control. And this seems exactly for what they're doing. I mean, someone sent me something earlier today. I'll have to find it. Where they were talking about, I think it was a congresswoman upstate, one of those states, where she was talking about how having the immigrants there was actually going to make them get more seats in Congress, because the larger the population, the more seats you get, regardless if they're a citizen or not. So, I mean, obviously the left doesn't care. They just want to bolster their political position so they have more power. And again, these are just all tenets of fascism, and people are not, they choose not to recognize it, or even more, could be even more sinister is the fact that they do recognize it, and this is exactly what they're trying to do. Like, this is exactly what they want.
Yeah, because, if you bring more poverty, what do you expect, right?
Right.
You're going to see more people on the streets. But again, that's the economic side of it. But I think I'm more concerned about the safety side of it. And do you think that any of these terrorist organizations that don't like us too much, do you think they already met and say, hey, we can do something through here and plan something now that we can maybe execute years from now? Do you think that that's already happening? Again, just pure speculation.
Oh, for sure.
But do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't put at this point. I've seen and heard way too much to not believe what I'm seeing with my own two eyes. And like I said, the thing that scares me the most is that coming upon this election year, we're going to have people that are once again going to vote. When they always say, hey, you're voting against your own interests. I think that people do vote against their own interests, but I think that when the interest is not pro-America and it's more pro, foreign wars, pro, illegal immigration and not following our laws, I don't think people really even know what they're asking for. I think they're so driven by hate that they don't even realize that they are pushing to have this country go into a banana republic. I don't know what the future of America is going to be like in the next few months, but I am praying with every fiber of my being that we are not going to turn into what what they're pushing for, because if it does, it's not good. It's not good at all.
I agree. Guys, want to let you know tomorrow, the topic will actually be the migrant crisis in America with special guest Erica Texas. She is my mod, and we will be discussing what's happening in Texas and what's going on in the country right now with this migrant crisis. MOD, if you're available tomorrow, you're welcome to join again, by the way. You're always welcome here. Tomorrow will be 5:15 Pacific and 8:15 p.m. Eastern. I do want to give a quick shout out here to my subscribers: Mima, Teachy Girls, Mistaken, Blessed Text, and Freedom. Again, guys, anything that you support, anything that you give to my platforms here and you support what I do, it allows me to spend more time doing this research and doing all of this content for you. Clearly, this is not paying my bills, but it allows me to spend more time here. So I really appreciate your time. And if you can't, I understand that it's a tough situation right now in the country. So if you cannot support, you're welcome to at least follow and support with giving likes to the videos and share the videos. And, that helps a lot to the algorithm to bring more people into the channel. Okay. So if you cannot support by subscribing or sending gifts, that's fine. At least follow and support this content. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Modi. Thank you, Mima. Go ahead, John. Welcome back to the panel. I got to wrap this up soon. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me now. Maybe
yes, now you're better.
Yeah, maybe my Bluetooth started to run out. First of all, I do appreciate your platform. I started sharing with my friends. I think you're very professional, and I do like it a lot.
Thank you.
Seriously, no joke about it. The other thing is, I wanted to highlight this clip that everybody's talking about. This guy on the border. I don't think I got a lot of reposts on it, and I replied to a lot of people recently. Never they actually paid any attention to the people surrounding the guy speaking. They look like bodyguards. And that was a very big highlight for me.
Are you talking about the Middle Eastern guy?
Yes.
Someone pointed that out too. I forgot to mention that, not to cut you off, but someone else mentioned that that the female standing next to him looked like she had she looked like she was carrying a lot. And then that is
I think I'm looking at the video now.
Yeah.
So there's like a female next to him.
Yes, and
by the way,
pushed
these migrants are pretty well dressed for what they're going through. Am I correct? Am I watching the right video?
Yes. I believe
they look very well dressed.
Yeah, they also talked about how Uruguay, you don't need a passport to enter or leave the country, something like that. So they're maybe suspecting where these people are coming from. But I mean, look at, this guy's pretty well dressed.
John, can you do me a favor? Can you message me that video, please?
I will.
Thank you.
I will. Yes.
Yeah. I want to look into this because I did see a report about it, but I didn't see the actual video until now.
I do believe you're looking at the same clip. The only thing is
he has glasses, right?
Yes. And the lady on the left of the clip, she actually at one point pushed a hand to kind of push people away. There was another one that got in the middle. I'm pretty sure it's the same clip. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. No, he's right. You're right. That's exactly what happened.
Interesting. Wow. So shocking. What's happening, Modi? What's happening?
I know you want to get off soon, but I just thought of this just now. What about the car crash in New York near the border with Canada?
Sorry, Maya, I just want to answer. Hold on, I just want to answer this question real quick. From SK asked, "What do we do to search it and find it?" So you go to YouTube, you can put You'll know who I am soon, migrant. Just search that and you'll see it. You can Google it or YouTube it. You'll know who I am soon. Or you're going to know who I am soon. Go ahead, Mai.
Oh, I was saying, sorry, my son is doing that. About the car accident that happened near the U.S.-Canadian border, and the car went about 100 miles an hour, and it crashed right into.
Is this the DUI?
What was it?
Is this the DUI?
I don't even remember them saying what happened.
Because I was going to do a video on this. I saw this news recently, and I'm matching it because they said he was going like around 100 miles per hour. So that's why I'm asking if it was a DUI.
I never heard anything after it except for they said it was a attack, and then they took it back saying that it wasn't. Now, I wouldn't put it past our government to hide from us whether it was or whether it wasn't. So I was just wondering if you guys had heard anything else on that.
I did hear
I
about
find it very
that
weird.
today, and I actually saved it somewhere on my phone, the story, but I didn't hear where it was exactly. I mean, I didn't get a chance to really look into it, but I did see that it was a DUI related. Might be the same case you're talking about. Again, I'm trying to cover.
Okay.
I'm trying to cover all of these wild stories, but sometimes it's like I'm overwhelmed because there's so many stories. I can't keep up. I can't.
I know.
It's crazy.
Especially
It's like
on here.
I'm finishing one and I already have like 5 more to cover. I'm like, it's crazy, guys. It's wild.
It's just so much is going on. Like, I feel like, is that kind of on purpose too, to throw so much chaos at us that we really don't know our rear ends from our elbows? Like,
Yeah.
you're just throwing so much at us. It's like every day it's something else.
They're hoping that we will just take it and sort of move on. But those of us that sort of fight back, and that's what I try my best to try to keep up on a lot on Trump's legal stuff. I think I'm pretty good with keeping on top of it, because it can get very challenging and confusing.
Thank you, MOD. Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with the news about the migrant. You can keep up with the legal stuff. I mean, I will just close everything down if I had to keep track of everything. So I like that we're able to, all of us are able to keep track of different things, to cover.
Yeah. And that's kind of how we have to work together is keeping track of those things, because I think I think you're right, my kings. They want us to be so distracted to the point where we just kind of lay down and take it, and just you get kind of information overload. You know what happens to kids when you overstimulate them? Either they become very, very hyper, or they end up falling asleep, right? I think for the majority of Americans, what they're sort of used to is the government just, okay, well, the government's going to take care of that. I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm not going to care. I'm going to go out. I'm just going to vote, and it just whatever. And you're not even, you don't know anything because it's too exhausting. You have so much stuff to worry about in your own life. You got high gas prices, you have food prices going up, you've got to worry about rent.
Some people live in paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. And they're not banking on the fact that there are some people that are just not going to sit there and take it. And then, we're going to look into what the government exactly is doing. So listen, I'm up for the challenge. I'm exhausted most days, but I don't think I can sit by as a citizen and just allow the government to just get away with what they're trying to do. So
MOD, Blessed Text said, we appreciate you, MOD and Vega.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, MOD, right? It really takes a lot of time, right?
It does.
It takes a lot of time. It does. But we appreciate that you appreciate that. We really do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And let me just pull up this comment here. Ima said they want us to give up. Right? Because MOD, what you said is right. I mean, if you're overwhelmed, right, and you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you see this news about the migrant, then you see this news about Trump, the legal case, and you're like, I have my own problem. I don't even want to look at this stuff.
Right.
And you just put it behind. And a lot of Americans don't have the time to look into it. What I mean, like to really look into it, they don't have the time because they're dealing with other things. Like you said, it's just to overwhelm us, and then we're just like, just forget it.
Yep. For sure.
I wasn't following those on the panel, but I'm sending you a follow now.
Oh yeah.
So whenever you're going to go live or anything, just keep me up to date. Like, shoot me a message or something, and I would come on and support them, because we need to find more people in our areas that are also willing to stand up, because it can be scary. I mean, look what they did to people from, I can't afford them to take money out of my bank account. I mean, it's so scary. Like, you want to stand up, but then you're also terrified of it, of what the government can actually do. I mean, I couldn't imagine that.
If you don't mind, I would like to go back to the southern border. There's some news recently that Biden administration actually sued Texas.
You're talking about the Supreme Court decision?
Yes, and
Yeah,
I don't understand it. I got news that it is real and it's not.
No, yeah, it is real. This is per Reuters. I'll read it again. I did read it earlier, but I'll read it again. Per Reuters, updated January 22nd, so today at 5:07 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. U.S. Supreme Court lets Border Patrol remove Texas razor wire fencing for now. So it's a win for Biden as of now. So that is true.
Well, they have.
And my follow-up
Correct.
question is, what's going to
Hold on.
happen
What was
with
it, Mai?
They have court for it on February 7th. I thought I read.
I didn't read the whole article, but that's the headline. I'm probably going to do a video on this.
Okay.
After we get off
Yeah.
from here, yeah.
my
John, I do have to end it, John, because I'm already like over 40 minutes. I'm trying to keep this live short so I can create content for you guys too and keep up with the news. So John, you're welcome to come tomorrow. We'll be discussing this tomorrow. It will be about the migrant crisis in America. Tonight's episode was about an independent voter, which she already dropped. We already asked all the questions. We got her points of view, and we appreciate her joining. So I do want to thank everyone that joined. MOD, thank you again. You're always welcome here. So, by the way, when it comes to my live, guys, you can go to my profile. I have my live schedule right there, so you can see the topics, the app just right there. So feel free to check it out, and you're welcome to join.
Sorry, I joined so late. It's based on work and everything. You know what I mean.
No problem, John. No problem. You're good. You're good. You're guys always welcome. And we'll continue to talk about this as more news continues to come out. Again, thank you everyone for joining. In the comment section, the subscribers, those that send gifts, and those that spend the time tapping the live and following. I really appreciate everyone as we continue to highlight what the mainstream media doesn't want to cover. So we'll try our best to keep up here. And thank you, Mother of Dragons, again for giving us your time here tonight once again.
For sure. No problem.
Thank you. See you guys tomorrow night.
Thank you, guys.
Bye now.
I'll see you tomorrow. Migrant crisis in America. Have a good night.
Thank you.